How's it going, guys? And welcome back to BL3's Forgotten, the series where I take a look at underused and not often talked about pieces of gear to determine whether or not they deserve to be remembered within the modern meta of the game or should be left behind and forgotten. And today we are taking a look at the Convergence. If you'd like to farm the Convergence for yourself, there's actually two methods that you can go about it. For the first, you can fast travel over to the Benediction of Pain within Krieg's mind, making your way all the way through to Benedict's arena, hitting the save station just before it, and of course jumping down to kill Benedict, who has a 10% chance to drop the Convergence. However, you can also make your way to the Snide-drowned Pulprit to take on the True Trial Hag of Fervor, who has a 50% chance to drop the Convergence, however is also able to drop multiple at once. The Convergence is a legendary Hyperion shotgun, able to roll in any of the elements including non-elemental, and can roll with 3 to 4 projectiles for 1 ammo per shot, or 6 to 8 for 2 ammo per shot. When hitting an enemy with the Convergence, it will summon multiple projectiles surrounding the impact, which will then, as the name implies, converge in to penetrate the main target. So immediately, I don't know why this thing can roll in ×3 and ×6, because there's just better variants for the same ammo cost in the ×4 and ×8, but between the ×4 and ×8, it does kind of depend because both of them are actually pretty damn good. ×8 is just straight up more damage, and honestly with how much damage it's able to pump out, the 2 ammo per shot really isn't a huge deal, but the ×4 is still definitely a very good option if that ammo cost is just a little bit too high for your build, or you're finding that you're reloading too much. ×8 does definitely become far more ammo hungry at higher fire rates, which is definitely when I would suggest swapping to a ×4. But about the gun itself, I'm really surprised that this is one that I don't see a lot of people talking about. Even back at the release of DLC 4, I was very excited about this gun, and I personally used it a hell of a lot and was just kind of waiting for a lot of other people to kind of catch on to it and to see the fucking potential that this thing had. But it kind of just never really happened. There is definitely a pretty niche but tight group around this gun. I'll see it recommended and talked about here and there, and I've definitely seen some people use it with some other specific builds, but it hasn't really reached the widespread appeal that I think it deserves because this thing is fucking strong. My best guess is simply that there is a lot of Hyperion shotguns. There's also a lot of Hyperion shotguns that are incredibly good, and a lot of them that are kinda not so great. While I personally think that Hyperion shotguns are a underappreciated class of weapon, I do also fully acknowledge that is not the widespread opinion. And instead, within the wider meta, it's usually just the Butcher and the Reflux. And those two guns definitely take the spotlight and drastically overshadow everything else, even when there's things like the Convergence, which I think is at the very least on par with those other two. Not only does this thing just pump out very high amounts of damage decently fast, but with how these projectiles work and how many hits that they can provide, you can make shit just fucking evaporate in front of you. But on top of just having the spotlight taken from it, the Convergence is a pretty rough farm. Hag is the better drop location for it, and I mean, who the fuck wants to farm Hag? But while Benedict is easier and it is a 10% chance, he is really fucking stingy with it in my experience. But on top of both of the farms just kind of not being great, this thing has a lot of potential roles, and as I mentioned earlier, there's those ×3 and ×6 variants which kind of just suck to get because you're getting less projectiles for the same ammo as potentially more projectiles. It's kind of like the love child of the Butcher and the Conference Call. It doesn't provide as much of their specific strengths, but it is a very good midpoint between sustained DPS and just goofy fucking projectiles that can abuse a lot of fun shit. And speaking of which, let's talk about that fun shit. Of course, there's the usual, short fuse can just be spammed out with this thing and hit multiple times on the same enemy quite easily, along with taking out large groups of enemies very fast, and similarly with Megavore, you're just gonna get a lot of hits of that with it. But my personal favorite is that it's able to trigger Eraser onto the same target that it activates off of due to how these projectiles work. Now, it's not incredibly consistent on enemies with smaller hitboxes, but it does happen often enough even then to gain a pretty big damage boost from it. But fuck, against targets with larger hitboxes, it'll shred through them. And it'll look damn good doing it because this is a very visually appealing gun to use. And not only does it look good, it feels good, and it's just fucking fun. In short, it's kind of fucking crazy to me that the Convergence isn't more popular than it is. Not only just being a very fun and very visually appealing gun to shoot, it is incredibly strong and has a lot of pretty damn good synergies going for it. I think it's kind of just held back in popularity both by having not very great farms and having a hell of a lot of potential roles on it, and for being a part of a weapon type with not only a lot of guns, but a few that just overshadow a majority of the others. But that's gonna about do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Down in the description will be a link to my Twitch channel where I'll be live right after this video goes up, and just below that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.